Welcome back, everyone. It's time for part 10 of The Crown Prince that sells medicine. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Daily parts coming your way. Written by the same author who gave us the world's greatest estate developer. All right, let's get into it. The Anglo New Kingdom, though possessing a short history of only 155 years, was emerging as a new powerhouse, brimming with potential. And in a few years, they would launch a war that would obliterate the Magentano royal family, and Magano Kingdom would crumble under the Anglo New Kingdom's reign. Lachiel stood before Atelian's sickbed, the overturned chair behind him, speaking with the chief bodyguard. But why would the Anglo New Kingdom's emissary want to meet with His Majesty? The chief bodyguard brought a hand to his chest, his face etched with worry. Actually, Your Majesty summoned the emissary 5 days ago. A premonition of unease washed over Lachiel as he thought of Guinness. Could it be? He blurted out, his voice laced with apprehension. Is it because of that Guinness? The chief bodyguard explained. He wants to hold him accountable for failing to control Monado. Lachiel frowned, bringing a hand to his forehead, his teeth gritted in frustration. Causing chaos? The bodyguard continued. Yes, Your Highness. Precisely. His Majesty was furious when he heard the news and officially summoned the Anglo New Kingdom's emissary to demand an explanation. Lachiel's expression darkened, his voice turning glacial. Today is the appointed meeting. The chief bodyguard's face was a mask of anxiety, his voice hesitant. Perhaps we should apologize to the emissary and have him return. Lachiel's eyes widened in surprise. Have him return? But the chief bodyguard stammered, beads of sweat forming on his brow. Well, then we simply tell him what we've announced, that His Majesty is resting due to a cold. Lachiel glanced towards a sickbed as he listened. Having gone to the trouble of summoning the emissary, are we to simply send him back? Riding the chair, Lachiel fell in silent contemplation. If we send him back today, it will be difficult to summon him again. Moreover, if the meeting is canceled due to a mere cold, they're sure to be suspicious. He sat, lost in thought. They might guess that the Emperor is facing a health issue. And we're talking about a potential enemy, one that could wage war against us in the next few years. He tapped a finger rhythmically against the chair, his silence heavy with thought. No, he finally declared, breaking the quiet. I will meet with him. The chief bodyguard's hand flew to his mouth, his astonishment evident. What? He exclaimed. Lachiel's gaze was resolute. I will attend a meeting in His Majesty's stead, in my own way. Elsewhere, Count Benjamin sat before a table laden with a thick stack of documents, accompanied by biscuits and a pot of tea. A steaming cup warmed his hands. He lifted the cup to his lips, savoring the hot liquid. His face relaxed in enjoyment as he held the tea close. The emissary of the Anglo New Kingdom, Count Benjamin, taking a moment of quiet repose. His face suddenly twisted into a scowl, teeth grinding as he thought, that shameless merchant has dragged me all the way out here. He frowned in contemplation, the memory of an explosion flashing through his mind. His hand slammed his teacup down on the table. If the Crown Prince had been killed in that incident, war would have broken out by now. This meeting certainly won't be easy. Benjamin reached inside his coat, retrieving something. But I am Benjamin, the master diplomat. From his pocket, he produced a deck of cards. Holding the deck in one hand, he presented a card bearing a shield emblazoned with a rose, his face brimming with self-satisfaction. No matter how difficult the Magano Emperor makes this, I have every card ready to play. He made a series of comical, self-satisfied expressions. My confident, self-congratulatory inner monologue is truly captivating. Benjamin's eyes gleamed with a fiery light as he smirked. Welcome, Emperor of Magano. Lachiel entered, saying, My apologies for the slight delay. Have you been waiting long? Benjamin bowed deeply. Not at all. He raised his head, looking towards the doorway where Lachiel stood, a regal presence. Confusion flickered across his face. The Crown Prince? Where's the Emperor? Benjamin's face froze. He forced a smile, placing a hand over his chest. Oh, Count Benjamin, emissary of the Anglo New Kingdom, at your service, Your Highness. Lachiel's serious gaze gave Benjamin pause. Meanwhile, Lachiel reminded himself, as someone completely clueless about diplomacy, I can only do two things. First, don't act arrogant in front of an expert. Lachiel extended his hand while Benjamin, hands clasped respectfully, head slightly bowed, waited. Please have a seat, Lachiel said. Second, he took Benjamin's hand, shaking it. It's a pleasure to meet you. He continued his internal monologue. draw him into my area of expertise, and take the initiative. Raphael's sincere gaze remained fixed on Ben-Amin, leaving him flustered and unsure what to say. Raphael pressed on in his thoughts. War must be avoided, for the sake of my luxurious life and peaceful retirement. Ben-Amin coughed, feigning a need to clear his throat, breaking the awkward silence. He averted his gaze. Your Highness, this time. Before Ben-Amin could finish, Raphael cut him off, a bright smile on his face as he raised a hand. Our emissary doesn't seem to be in the best of health, does he? Ben-Amin stared blankly, bewildered. What do you mean? Raphael, still smiling, pointed. Could you extend your left hand forward? Ben-Amin extended his hand hesitantly. I like this, Raphael replied. No, further out towards me. Ben-Amin, still confused, asked, but why? Raphael swiftly grasped Ben-Amin's hand. A green swirl materialized. He looked at Ben-Amin's hand, stroking his chin thoughtfully. You must frequently experience a heavy head upon waking in the morning, don't you? Ben-Amin stammered, surprised. Well, yes, but what are you implying? Raphael continued. The muscles in your neck and shoulders are often tense, and you suffer from headaches. Ben-Amin trembled, shaking the table slightly. That's true, but first, please let go of me. Raphael pressed on. And you have a habit of drinking and smoking, don't you? Above Raphael's head, a system interface appeared, depicting people chatting and chuckling. His expression turned somber. The corners of your eyes droop slightly. Ben-Amin interjected. Now is not the time to be concerned with such matters. Raphael continued speaking, his fingertips trembling almost imperceptibly. A sudden unease gripped Ben-Amin. A primal instinct warned him something was amiss. He recoiled, a flicker of fear in his eyes, his mouth slightly agape. I'm being played, he thought, by the Crown Prince. I must see the Emperor immediately. Your Highness, he began, his voice strained. He gritted his teeth. I came prepared with so many bargaining chips, he thought, but the Crown Prince. Ben-Amin glanced towards Raphael, who continued speaking smoothly, seemingly oblivious to the emissary's growing agitation. He just won't stop talking. Slamming his hand on the table, he rose to his feet. Your Highness, he declared, I came here today to see Emperor Magentano. A dangerous smile played on Raphael's lips. You think you can seize the initiative from me? He thought. Not a chance. Count Ben-Amin, Raphael began. He abruptly stood, his sudden movement catching Ben-Amin off guard. You are a valued guest, Raphael stated, circling behind Ben-Amin's chair, the emissary's brow furrowing slightly, empowered by the Ango New Kingdom with full authority to meet with our empire. However, Raphael continued, his voice taking on a graver tone, I cannot ignore the fact that our esteemed guest appears to be in less than perfect health. Could I possibly overlook such a matter? If the emissary were to fall ill, to collapse here, what a scandal it would be for our royal family. Raphael suddenly placed a hand on Ben-Amin's shoulder and then reached up to touch his forehead, shaking his head with a theatrical display of concern. Oh dear, this simply will not do, he said. Tell me. Raphael leaned in, his expression darkening, his voice dropping to a low murmur that sent a shiver down Ben-Amin's spine. Is everything all right? Ben-Amin stammered, his eyes wide with apprehension. And no, not really. Sweat beaded on his brow as he bit his lip, his thoughts in turmoil. 7 failures already. Raphael turned and walked away. Therefore, Raphael called back over his shoulder, I would advise you to abstain from alcohol, tobacco, and to engage in at least 30 minutes of exercise daily. He pulled out a chair as if to sit. Then, with a delicate cough, he straightened up, adopting a regal air. Ben-Amin, startled, looked up. Yes, Your Majesty, he blurted out, thinking he was addressing the Emperor. Raphael's expression turned serious. Indeed, His Majesty has been unwell since yesterday. What ails him? Ben-Amin asked, the realization that the Emperor was ill hitting him with unexpected force. A severe cold, Raphael explained, pausing for effect. He has been overworking himself lately, under a great deal of stress, and has consequently increased his consumption of tobacco and alcohol. That is likely the cause of his illness, he continued, placing a hand thoughtfully on his chin. It's quite distressing to see him so fatigued and with such a poor appetite, all due to a common cold. So, you were sent in his stead? Ben-Amin asked. Indeed, Raphael replied. Raphael picked up a teacup. His Majesty sends his sincerest apologies and extends an invitation for you to join him for luncheon on another occasion. Ben-Amin frowned, a bead of sweat trickling down his temple. Even if it's true, he thought, I never expected him to admit it so readily. A straightforward apology and an invitation to luncheon as compensation. He's so forthright, it leaves me with no grounds for complaint. The Crown Prince himself came to explain the situation so transparently. To press the matter further would make me appear unreasonable. Benjamin bit his lip. He neutralized one of my bargaining chips just like that. He scowled, glancing at Lachiel, who was now smirking, a subtle appraisal in his eyes. This Crown Prince is no fool. Lachiel suddenly leaned closer to Benjamin, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. And there's something I wanted to discuss with you. The atmosphere outside was a stark contrast to the tension within the room where Lachiel and Benjamin had just concluded their meeting. Benjamin, his face beaming, walked beside Lachiel. I never expected such kindness from His Highness, the Crown Prince, he gushed. Lachiel, one hand on his hip, the other lightly touching his forehead, chuckled. Is that so? Benjamin, clutching a paper, held it aloft, his face a mask of cheerful gratitude, while Lachiel stood behind him, arms crossed. I shall deliver this letter and your Highness's message, Benjamin declared. Suddenly, Damien appeared. How did the meeting go? He inquired. Lachiel replied casually, it went adequately. Both of them watched as Benjamin skipped away, humming a cheerful tune. Damien raised an eyebrow. It seems to have gone rather well, he observed. Lachiel responded. Fortunately, he understood my intentions. Damien frowned slightly, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Your Highness's intentions? He mused. I suppose you've just managed to charm a rather naive fawn. Lachiel let out a genuine laugh. Damien, I have a task for you. Damien bowed his head, eyes closed. What is it, Your Highness? Lachiel's gaze hardened, his hand resting on Damien's shoulder. A top-secret mission, he stated gravely. Damien faced Lachiel, his brow furrowed. A top-secret mission, sir, Lachiel explained in a serious tone. Today, a very important patient will be admitted to the royal infirmary. Damien's confusion was evident. Yes, Your Highness? Lachiel raised a hand to his lips, leaning closer to Damien conspiratorially. Quiet now, he whispered. Don't let anyone hear. Damien pressed. Who is it that requires such secrecy? Lachiel turned his face away. His Majesty, the Emperor. So, you should return to the infirmary and make preparations. Damien inquired, should I have the entire Special Forces unit on standby? Lachiel raised a hand, a smile playing on his lips. Yes, he confirmed. He turned back to Damien, his expression softening. I know you've been focused on your training lately. I apologize for the interruption. Damien offered reassurance. It's no trouble at all, Your Highness. Compared to training, his voice filled with conviction. Protecting important figures is my top priority. Lachiel briefly recalled the sight of Damien intensely training, striking down rows of training dummies that lay scattered on ground. He must have felt his limitations at Cremaux. Lachiel mused, picturing Damien's swift strikes, each blow delivered with powerful precision. That monster was a formidable obstacle for him. He paused, catching his breath. Rubble and debris lay everywhere, dust and grit swirling in the air. Lachiel pondered silently. It seems the time has come. He assessed the moment Damien realized his true potential. He will become the strongest in the world. But not yet. Damien bowed before the smiling Lachiel. Then I'll return to the infirmary to prepare. The two men parted ways. Suddenly, Damien stopped mid-stride. He frowned in thought. Though I've intensified my training considerably, it's still not enough. He looked at his calloused, sword-worn hand, dotted with small scars. I've never had formal swordsmanship training. Can I truly surpass my limitations? Damien's expression hardened. What must I do to become stronger? Later that night, Lachiel wheeled 8 Lion, who was seated in a wheelchair, out of the room. We can't let the Emperor remain in the palace. Lachiel pushed the wheelchair forward, his mind racing. Because we don't know which of his close aides harbor ill intentions, he murmured, a shadow of worry crossing his face. Furthermore, the Emperor's condition remains critical. I must remain by his side, Lachiel continued, until I can use the Archbishop's blessing spell. In another month, he glanced at the whispering servants bustling around them. If I remain confined within the palace, they'll suspect the Emperor's illness is more than a common cold, he mused, continuing to push Atelian's wheelchair. Best to avoid that scenario. Lachiel steered the chair towards a door. And I should prepare to receive our next VIP, he thought, a chilling smile playing on his lips. The effects must be starting to take hold. Early that morning, a voice echoed through the opulent halls of the Grand Castle. You say Benjamin has returned? A servant, hand on chest, bowed beside Merivet, who sat upon his throne. So soon. Merivet gritted his teeth. Emperor Magentano is no easy opponent, he thought, his face contorted with rage, his hand clenched so tightly it trembled. His eyes burned with fury. Merivet, king of the Ango New Kingdom, seethed. The door swung open, and Ben-Amin entered. Bowing low before Merivet, he announced, "Your Majesty, I have returned." Merivet replied, "Baron, you have returned." Merivet, his gaze dark, stroked his chin. "How did it go?" Ben-Amin hesitated. Ben-Amin's words caused Merivet's brow to furrow. "I was unable to meet with Emperor Magentano." Ben-Amin continued, a bright smile spreading across his face as a shimmering light seemed to emanate from him. He raised a hand in a live-long and prosper gesture. "Instead, I met with the Crown Prince." Ben-Amin recalled his conversation with Lachiel. "Allow me to summarize the main points of our meeting today." Lachiel had begun, launching into his carefully crafted narrative. "I believe the Ango New Kingdom is also aware of the situation in Cremo." Ben-Amin hadn't understood the relevance, but had nodded along. "Of course," Lachiel continued. "Therefore, I would like to propose no request." Ben-Amin, a flicker of anxiety in his eyes, asked, "Our request? What is it?" Lachiel smiled. A golden aura surrounded him. Princess Arlene Bioarni of the Ango New Kingdom, the first heir to the throne, must remain in the Magentano imperial capital for 6 months. A bolt of shock went through Ben-Amin. "What?" he exclaimed, thinking. "He wants my daughter as a hostage. Is he mad?" He scowled, looking away, his hands clenching into fists. "The Ango New Kingdom is an independent nation, not a colony of Magentano." He fumed inwardly, his face reddening with anger. "This is an outrage." "Absolutely not." Lachiel smirked. Suddenly, a system window appeared. "Use 1 free lie ticket." "Baron Ben-Amin is beginning to be enthralled by your lie." Lachiel spoke. "Actually, I am deeply interested in building a friendly, peaceful, and constructive relationship with the Ango New Kingdom." He placed a hand over his heart, feigning sincerity. "No, truly, I wish to foster a close bond with you." A system window appeared. "Baron Ben-Amin will absolutely and eternally believe 1 lie of yours." Ben-Amin stroked his chin thoughtfully. "A close bond?" he said, his voice tinged with excitement. "Might I inquire as to the reason?" A thought suddenly struck Ben-Amin. He raised a hand to his mouth, a look of realization dawning on his face as he gazed at Lachiel. Could it be, he wondered, that the Crown Prince had designs on his daughter? The image of Lachiel proposing to Princess Arlene flashed through his mind. If the princess were to come and stay for 6 months and develop feelings for the Crown Prince, he froze, the thought hanging in the air. Wait, he mused, perhaps a strong alliance through marriage? Or even a federation? Ben-Amin continued to drift in his reverie. A grand, unprecedented empire would be formed. Perhaps, he thought, his name would be etched in the annals of history forever. He muttered to himself, lost in the grandeur of it all. This meeting, the foundation for a mighty empire. Ben-Amin pictured himself lauded by the populace, the great diplomat who orchestrated this momentous meeting. A fist slammed down on the table. A furious voice shattered his daydream. "What?" Merivet roared, pointing a finger at Ben-Amin. "He wants Arlene to stay for 6 months. He dares treat our kingdom like a colony and hold my daughter hostage. Does he want war?" Merivet's face contorted in a grimace. "Ben-Amin," he bellowed, "you heard that insulting demand and remained silent. In the face of such an outrage." Ben-Amin stammered, "Why, your Majesty?" Trembling, Ben-Amin fumbled for an explanation. "It's a reasonable request, your Majesty, to foster amicable relations between our 2 nations. Merivet's voice dripped with disbelief. "What did you say?" Ben-Amin, head bowed, continued. "Crown Prince Lachiel of Magentano wishes, through this exchange, to build a strong relationship between our kingdoms and to form a bond with the princess." "A bond?" Merivet questioned sharply. Still trembling, Ben-Amin pressed on. "If the future leaders of our 2 nations were to form a bond, the future of both nations would be more peaceful." Merivet exploded. "I don't want to hear another word." He rose abruptly, his face a mask of fury. "The negotiations with Magentano have failed." Ben-Amin reached into his coat pocket. "Your Majesty, please calm down and read the letter the Crown Prince sent." Merivet ground his teeth, his brow furrowed in thought. What had happened to Ben-Amin? He had always been so steadfast. How could he be so bewitched by the crown prince? He stopped in front of Benjamin, who held the letter out with both hands, head bowed respectfully. I implore you, your majesty. Merivet snatched the letter, his voice still tight with anger. Fine, I'll read it. He slowly unfolded the letter and began to read. As he did, a faint blue light emanated from around him. Merivet's grip tightened on the letter. His voice, low and thoughtful, broke the silence. Baron, it seems I underestimated him. After careful consideration, I realize. His face softened, and a booming laugh erupted from his chest. Crown Prince Lachiel of Magentano is a man of vision. I like him. This matter should be settled as soon as possible. Benjamin's face lit up with hopeful anticipation as Merivet folded the letter, pointed, and said with a broad smile, Summon Arlene. Bring her here. The surrounding soldiers, faces grim, exchanged bewildered glances. What had come over their king? Merivet turned and strode back towards his throne, lost in thought. I thought the crown prince was weak, he mused, settling back onto his seat. But he's quite the man, isn't he? He opened the letter again, considering. Natria, Arlene, Magentano. No. A system window suddenly appeared, displaying the message. Free-lie ticket successfully applied. Merivet stroked his chin, a foolish grin spreading across his face as he gazed at the letter. My future son-in-law, he chuckled, still within the confines of the grand castle. Meanwhile, Princess Arlene of the Ango New Kingdom stood before the king. Her hand pressed her chest, confusion etched on her face. Father, she began, her voice laced with clear displeasure. I truly cannot fathom this. Why would you so readily agree to the Magentano Empire's demands? I, Arlene Bioarni, first heir to the throne of the Ango New Kingdom. She glanced sideways at Lachiel, a shiver running down her spine. This decision, she declared, her voice hardening, is unjust. No, it's utterly wrong. The king tightened his grip on the scroll. Arlene, my only daughter, he stated. Yes, your majesty, she replied. He glared at her. Do you believe I made this decision out of fear of Magentano's power? The question caught Arlene off guard. Well, she stammered. Seeing her reaction, the king's anger flared. Of course, that's what you think. That's why you oppose my decision. Witnessing his fury, she wondered, what could possibly be in that letter? Do they have some leverage over us? Anxiety gnawed at her. Or is it some terrible threat? I'm so curious. The king looked at Arlene. I imagine this is difficult for you to accept. I understand your feelings. But in time, you will understand and be grateful for my decision. I am not mistaken, my daughter, he added with conviction. Hearing these words, Arlene felt a surge of indignation. But your majesty, she began, still attempting to reason with him. Enough, he roared. The king's voice boomed through the castle. I will not hear any further objections. Depart immediately. He pointed at her and remained there for 6 months. Father, she cried out, stunned. Known as the smiling angel of the Ango New Kingdom, she watched as the royal knights rushed forward to restrain her. Father, please, she pleaded, her voice laced with desperation. She was known by such a beautiful title, the smiling angel. Was it because of her inherent goodness? The knights struggled to hold her. She was surprisingly strong. Was the reason for her title her kind and warm personality? That wasn't quite right. She was wriggling free. How could this be? She was a formidable warrior, a master swordsman of intermediate rank, a true force to be reckoned with. The princess had a peculiar habit in combat. With a single strike, she brought down all the knights. It was the habit of flashing a radiant smile as she defeated her opponents. She flung one of the knights against the wall. That habit, that smile, was the very reason she was called. She let out a breath, a smirk playing on her lips, the smiling angel. The king was furious. He immediately turned to his mages. In the blink of an eye, they surrounded the princess, chanting incantations. Unable to escape, she gasped. What? Magical chains materialized, binding her tightly. She strained against them, to no avail. Damn it, she cursed. Get these off, she roared, struggling against the unyielding restraints. Bound and defeated, she was led to a waiting carriage, the magical chains still holding her fast. Father, she sobbed, tears streaming down her face. But the king showed little remorse, perhaps accustomed to such scenes. Safe travels, my daughter, he said simply. The carriage hurtled forward with breathtaking speed, flashing past the startled knights guarding the gate. One knight, flustered, muttered, "Isn't that Ango's VIP pre-dawn delivery service?" He watched the carriage disappear into the distance. Beside him, Another knight replied, indeed. Guaranteed delivery by first light. The sun's about to rise. 10 days later, at dawn, in a different location entirely, Princess Arlene stepped down from the carriage. The knight captain remarked, pre-dawn, but 10 days later. Arlene, her eyes scanning the surroundings with a look that could cut stone, asked, is this the Magentano imperial capital? The knight captain added, Princess, from this moment forward, you must project an air of authority. He continued, you are the face of the Ango new kingdom. A scornful smile touched her lips. I understand, she replied, stepping forward with a newfound confidence. I cannot afford to appear weak. A figure approached the princess. Narrowing her eyes, Arlene thought, I feel like I've seen this person somewhere before. The wind rustled through the air. Welcome, Princess of the Ango New Kingdom, to the imperial capital, the figure said. Lachiel, with a dazzling smile, added, you've had a long journey, Damien. Damien bowed his head in greeting. Seeing the crown prince, Arlene thought with a surge of irritation, I remember now. The crown prince of Magentano. She rested her chin on her hand, studying Lachiel's physique. Quite different from that sickly portrait. Lachiel, his cheerful demeanor unwavering, extended a hand. I am Lachiel Ariana Magentano, crown prince of Magentano. Arlene, her gaze filled with disdain, responded, Arlene Bioarni of the Ango New Kingdom. Lachiel's hand remained outstretched as Arlene continued, seemingly oblivious to him. Princess of the Ango New Kingdom. Lachiel, glancing at his own hand, smirked. A cold one, is she? I met plenty like her before. Memories of his past life in Korea flooded his mind. It was always like this, whether it was blind dates, social gatherings, or even speed dating. A wave of near despair washed over him. Is this my fate? I can practically feel the waves of rejection radiating off of them. To break the strained silence, he clapped his hands together. You must be weary after such a long journey. Lachiel gestured towards the dining hall. This way, princess. Let us break our fast first. He glanced at Arlene. Afterwards, I shall escort you to the palace where you will be staying. The princess remained silent, her gaze fixed elsewhere. A flicker of worry crossed Lachiel's face. Arlene is the key to preventing the Great War. Observing her haughty demeanor, he mused, although Arlene has a competitive spirit and enjoys a good fight. Ignoring Lachiel's scrutiny, Arlene turned to the knight captain. Aren't you hungry? He replied, I'm fine. Lachiel's thoughts continued. She ultimately prefers peace over war. And she's also considered to be quite intelligent. He knew Arlene's potential. Despite her strength, vitality, and power, tragically, she died suddenly before ascending to the throne. After that, someone else took her place. A distant relative ended up becoming the ruler of the Ango New Kingdom. The nation was soon ruined because this new king was a radical militarist, the complete opposite of Arlene. And that was a disaster. The beginning of the Great War with Magentano. He sighed inwardly. She acts as if she were born for war. Watching the princess, Lachiel made up his mind. I can't let that happen. I must save Adamin and put her on the throne. Meanwhile, Princess Arlene stared at Lachiel, blurting out, What? Recalling what he had read, Lachiel thought, based on the descriptions of Adamin's symptoms in the novel, I suspect she has a bile duct obstruction due to gallstones. Actually, I knew someone with similar symptoms. He remembered someone, a web novelist he knew through his two close friends, Won-ho and Ul-soo. His name was Baekhyung, I think. He pondered how to help the princess. Anyway, if gallstones have already formed, they must be removed and preventative measures taken to stop them from recurring. Suddenly, the princess put her fork down. Lachiel worried she was fatigued after her long journey. My apologies, he said. You must have an upset stomach from dining so soon after your travels. He snapped his fingers. Therefore, I prepared a medicinal tea. With the snap of his fingers, Garen appeared. Oh dear, Garen said, a little surprised. This girl really is. Lachiel continued. I've specially prepared a nourishing tonic for you. Looking at the tea, she exclaimed, Tobacco. She seemed quite angry. Poison? Oh, really, she thought. Really? The princess raised her fist, startling the knight commander. She slammed it down on the table, shattering it. Everyone was taken aback by the princess's outburst. This is a form of... She continued. Clenching her fist, the princess continued in a furious tone. Insult. Is this how you treat me? It seemed she had perhaps misunderstood something. The previous blow had cracked the table. Food scattered everywhere. Lachiel asked, surprised. Insult? The princess said irritably. Is summoning me here and making me sit still not enough? He didn't understand what she meant. What do you mean? He quickly asked. She tightened her grip. I came here at your summons. That alone was a difficult decision for me in the Ango New Kingdom. Her voice rose. Don't you know that? He seemed genuinely surprised to hear this. She lowered her head, placing a hand on her forehead. So let me be clear. I will stay here for 6 months, as the crown prince requested of my father. Pointing at Lachiel, the princess continued, but that is all. Don't expect anything more from me. Lachiel tried to conciliate. There seems to be a misunderstanding. She stood up abruptly. There is no misunderstanding. He placed a hand on his chin. Are you afraid of something? Hearing those words, she was so shocked she couldn't speak. Being called afraid made the princess tremble with anger. What did you say? Lachiel crossed his arms, looking at her. I haven't done anything. Remembering the meal, he continued, I merely offered you a meal. Remembering the tea on the table, he added, and presented you with a nourishing tonic. Why are you afraid? He couldn't help but wonder aloud, and avoiding it like this. The princess scowled. I'm not afraid, Lachiel said worriedly. If you're worried the tonic is poisoned. She was furious. This man. Lachiel addressed Garen. Knight Garen, bring the tonic here. He bowed. Yes, your highness. Garen retrieved the tea and placed it on the table. Lachiel took the cup of medicine, swirling the liquid gently. This is quite a rare medicine, he commented, before drinking it in one gulp and setting the cup down. After drinking, Lachiel spoke, his gaze cold as he looked at Princess Arlene. Surely I, the crown prince of the Magentano Empire. He paused, his voice laced with accusation. Would not poison the medicine offered to a guest during an official visit? It seems you've misunderstood. Arlene stammered. No, that wasn't what I meant. Lachiel replied. It's all right, feigning a heartbroken sob. He dabbed at a non-existent tear with a handkerchief. Understand. Princess Arlene doesn't trust me and is intentionally trying to humiliate me. You didn't drink the medicine, and now you're trying to intimidate me. Arlene stood, thinking to herself, Damien despises cowards and the timid. A scoff escaped Arlene's lips. He dares to call me a coward? I want to punch him. She pulled out her chair and declared, I've never been afraid. Give me the medicine. Her voice hardened. But I have one condition. This is the first and last time I will drink this. Lachiel responded, try it first, then decide. He exchanged a knowing glance and a smile with Garen. Arlene stared at the medicine, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. This doesn't seem very nutritious. A wave of apprehension washed over her. But looking closer, it's just poison. Whatever. Dismissing her thoughts, she downed the medicine in one gulp. A strange taste filled her mouth. What is this flavor? Nausea welled up. It's like licking an elephant's armpit. Suddenly, Lachiel was at her side. Here, he said, offering a sweet. After bitter medicine, one must have a sweet. Arlene, still reeling from the taste, could only manage. Good heavens. He extended his hand, a candy resting in his palm. This will help. Plum-flavored. Arlene, embarrassed and salivating, stared at the candy. She desperately wanted it, but hesitated. I want to eat it, but my pride won't let me. She couldn't control herself any longer. Oh, to hell with it. The princess of the Ango New Kingdom snatched the candy and popped it into her mouth. Lachiel offered another. Here's a green grape one. Surprise flickered across Arlene's face. This one, a bright smile bloomed. Delicious. She jumped slightly as Lachiel moved closer. Standing abruptly, she said, thank you for the medicine and the dessert. Now, if you'll excuse me. Lachiel stepped forward. Leaving so soon? Arlene turned back. Is there any reason for me to stay? Lachiel placed a hand on his chest, a playful smile on his lips. Of course not. The Knight Captain will escort you to your quarters. Please, make yourself comfortable. As she walked away, Arlene thought, it's best I avoid that man for the next 6 months. Because I might. Her hands clenched into fists, her face a mask of barely suppressed fury. Punch him any moment. Knights trained under the scorching sun. Arlene, amidst the drills, thought calmed down. Arlene, this place is crawling with enemies. Glancing at the muscles in her shoulders, a surge of confidence filled her. Well, my back feels incredibly strong today. A puzzled frown creased her brow. Why does my body feel so light? Not just strong. I feel like I could fly. Turning to the Knight Captain, she asked, are you all right, Knight Captain? He replied, yes, Princess. After sparring with the other knights, he looked exhausted, but insisted, I'm fine. Just a 10-day carriage ride. Something like that is nothing. Looking at his weary form, Arlene thought, you look quite tired. She glanced down at her own hands, a question forming in her mind. But why don't I feel tired at all? Arlene grimaced. The memory of the vial tonic still fresh on her tongue. Could it be from that medicine I drank yesterday? She wondered, pushing the unpleasant thought aside. A sudden clamor of footsteps startled her. She turned, surprised. What's that? Are there elderly people and children staying in the imperial palace? They didn't look like servants, she observed, their faces etched with illness and discomfort. They look like patients, she mused, and they're heading towards the crown prince's quarters. A thought sparked in Arlene's mind, a plan forming. Slipping behind a doorway, she realized, I've unconsciously followed them. Peeking inside, curiosity gnawed at her. What are they doing in the crown prince's residence? Suddenly, Raphael's voice drifted out. Your liver is inflamed, he was saying. Arlene gasped. It was Raphael examining a patient. First, abstain from alcohol and oily foods, Raphael instructed. Yes, Your Highness, the patient replied meekly. Take your medicine diligently, Raphael continued, and we will proceed with your treatment. Please, this way. His gaze flicked towards the doorway, as if sensing Arlene's presence. She flinched, pressing herself further into the shadows. Relieved, Arlene thought he had gone. Then, Raphael appeared beside her. What are you doing here? He asked. Startled, she stammered. Raphael raised an eyebrow. What do you mean by, This is a clinic. Have you registered to see a physician? Arlene blinked, taken aback. Register? Did you queue properly? Raphael pressed. No, Arlene replied, bewildered. She trailed off, realizing he was serious. Do you think this is a joke? Raphael's voice was stern. He gestured around the room. This is a place where patients receive care. Everyone is equal here, except for His Majesty the Emperor. There is no distinction of status, gender, or age. He pointed towards the entrance. If you want to enter, register first. He emphasized each word. Queue properly. Do you understand? He demanded. Humiliated by the public reprimand, Arlene turned and fled. 2 hours crawled by. Then, Raphael's voice called out, Next! Arlene stood before him, a slip of paper clutched in her hand. I have followed the proper procedures, she declared, and queued accordingly. I knew you would, Raphael thought, a hint of amusement in his eyes. As you can see, Arlene continued, I am that kind of person. I'm not the type of royal who abuses their power and status. He took the paper, his gaze questioning. You wanted to prove that? Because what I experienced earlier, Arlene admitted, was truly humiliating. Raphael chuckled softly. Well then, he said, welcome. Turning, he gestured toward a chair. I've been wanting to have a serious conversation with you, Princess, in this clinic for a long time. Arlene frowned. What do you mean? Raphael pulled out a chair, his expression thoughtful. Do you know why I wanted you to stay in the capital for 6 months? He glanced over his shoulder at Arlene. Aren't you curious about the real reason? Arlene, her hand resting lightly on the back of the chair, considered his words. The reason you summoned me here, she thought, wasn't to humiliate me over the Cremo incident, but for something else? Was he planning? She sat down, lost in thought. Raphael's face, half-shadowed, curved into a sly smile. Excellent, he thought. I was wondering how to get the princess here. He settled into the chair opposite Arlene, a mischievous glint in his eyes as he pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. I can't miss this opportunity, he murmured. Raphael sat across from Arlene, his mind racing. To treat her gallstones, the princess first needed to understand her condition. He considered the challenge of awareness, recalling a scenario a physician had described to him. A patient diagnosed with a severe case of money addiction had been given only 3 months to live. The patient, bewildered, had retorted, What syndrome? I am perfectly healthy. Raphael mused on the difficulty of patients recognizing their own ailments. The physician, in the anecdote, had abruptly raised his voice. If you want to live, you must begin treatment immediately. The patient, irritated, had argued back, but I'm not sick. Why should I undergo treatment? Raphael pondered. It was about acceptance and cooperation. The patient in the story had collapsed, vitality draining away. If only I had believed the doctor and sought treatment, he lamented. Raphael concluded his internal monologue. That was the first step in any treatment plan. He glanced at Arlene, who sat with her eyes closed, and thought, currently, the princess hasn't even taken that first step. Gallstones often present no clear symptoms. Raphael licked his lips, raising a hand to his mouth thoughtfully. If I abruptly suggest treatment, she won't cooperate. He broke the unnerving silence. First, I must inform you, princess. His next words landed like a heavy blow. That you will die within the next 2 years. Arlene's eyes snapped open, wide with disbelief. What? I'm not joking, Lachiel stated. Arlene brought a hand to her forehead, her face a mask of frustrated anger. Not a joke, but a curse more like. She didn't argue aloud, however. You can consider it a curse, because it's the truth. Lachiel's nose seemed to elongate as he spoke. This is the analysis of the Imperial Intelligence Agency. His nose, metaphorically stretching all the way to Arlene, caused her to recoil slightly. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice laced with apprehension. Our intelligence agency, he explained, has eyes and ears everywhere in the world. The Ango New Kingdom, and all of your actions are no exception. Through this, we have detected and analyzed the signs of a serious illness, one that even you, princess, are unaware of. Arlene's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. So you're saying I'll die within 2 years from an illness? She still couldn't believe it, the thought echoing in her mind. I'll die in 2 years. Anger pulsed through her, making her temples throb. I mistook you for someone serious, but it turns out you're just mocking me with such nonsense. Disappointing, she muttered, the teacup resting on her lap, trembling slightly. You're playing a cruel joke. Lachiel raised a hand to his mouth, feigning sympathy. The truth can be cruel sometimes. Arlene stood abruptly, bristling with indignation. Are you mocking me that much? Lachiel remained seated, looking up at her. I'm not mocking you. I want to treat you. I can't believe a word you say, Arlene retorted. Then I'll show you proof, he replied, calling out in a way that puzzled her. Robot! Something stirred within the left breast pocket of Lachiel's coat. Suddenly, a small, yellow creature emerged from his pocket, fluttering its wings and taking flight, drawing gasps of surprise from those present. The robot zipped playfully through the air. Lachiel looked up, a smile playing on his lips. You've been bored lately, haven't you? Finally, something for you to do. The small robot descended towards Lachiel, who extended a hand to receive it. No feasting today, he remarked. Adamin, visibly flustered, stared at something beyond them. Is that a mythical beast? He stammered. Lachiel, handing the robot, Babuk, to Arlene, said, Introductions first. Princess Arlene, this is Babuk, my patient for today. Arlene swallowed, still awestruck by Lachiel's unusual companion. He continued, and this Princess Arlene is Babuk, the chief pharmaceutical analyst of the Royal Clinic. Arlene extended her hand. It's a pleasure, Babuk, Lachiel added, but today he'll be fulfilling a different role. Lachiel raised a hand. Babuk, begin. The robot emitted a sound of agreement, a simple "oh." A window materialized on its surface as its lips puckered and its body began to transform. Activating auxiliary function, meridian scan. Babuk extended its gill-like appendages, emitting a golden light that pulsed outwards. The glowing Babuk moved towards Adamin. A few days earlier, Lachiel lay wearily in bed, sighing. Another sleepless night, he muttered. A notification window appeared. Your internal organs complain about your erratic sleep schedule. Another message followed. Internal organs are convening. Lachiel stared at the system display with deadpan eyes. What are you all doing? He thought. Suddenly, the system display flashed red. Your internal organs vehemently condemn your actions. The display expanded, revealing a multitude of agitated internal organs. Lachiel bolted upright, throwing his hands up. A strike? What now? Looking away, Lachiel said, Actually, I just received a reply from the Ango New Kingdom. He paused. What is it? They've agreed to send the princess here, as requested. He continued, She'll arrive in about 3 days. And I'm worried. An alarm blared. A red-haired figure within the system display cried out, Emergency. A meeting of the internal organs commenced. The red-haired figure exclaimed, They agreed to send the princess? Does that mean the future father-in-law approves? A curly-haired figure cheered. Time to propose. Another, with darker hair, added, Confess like a real man. The system window chimed. Internal organs have granted you 1,000 HP. Current HP, 2,500. Lachiel interjected, No, not a proposal. I have to cure the princess to prevent the war, remember? The system displayed a scene of disappointed organs. They looked at Lachiel with deadpan expressions. Disappointed internal organs request a refund on granted HP. Lachiel asked, bewildered, A refund? For what? Scratching his head, he said, It seems I have to make her aware of her condition before she'll cooperate with treatment. If you all want to get some sleep, help me out here. The internal organs huddled, deliberated, then sighed collectively. No way. Damn it, we thought we were finally free. Lachiel, exasperated, snapped. Don't you want to sleep? The system window displayed a message. How about upgrading the diagnostic pulse skill? He murmured, diagnostic pulse. The system window responded, you wish to convince the princess of her condition. Then the best way is to show her rather than explain. Lachiel's eyes widened. You mean I can show her the diagnostic pulse? A system window materialized, displaying detailed information about the skill. Skill name, Pulse Diagnosis Level 6. Description, diagnose a target's health status by taking their pulse. Detailed results can be viewed in the General Diagnosis panel. Additionally, your internal organs can communicate with the patient's organs for a more accurate diagnosis. Current HP, 2500. Lachiel pressed his finger against the level up icon on the system interface. Supplementary function 1, acupoint scan. HP required for the next level, 300. A notification window popped up. HP required for the next level, 350. He frowned slightly. As expected, he couldn't level it up in one go. His gaze hardened with determination. Gritting his teeth, he rapidly tapped the system, urging himself onward. Windows flashed, one after another, and swirling circles enveloped Lachiel. Skill name, Pulse Diagnosis Level 7. Skill name, Pulse Diagnosis Level 8. Skill name, Pulse Diagnosis Level 9. Skill name, Pulse Diagnosis Level 10. Pulse Diagnosis has reached Level 11. Pulse Diagnosis skill level increased. Beginner Level 10. Intermediate Level 1. You have become much more proficient in pulse diagnosis. Accumulate experience and skill points. Now, you can not only see inside the patient's body with pulse diagnosis, but also show them the results. A new supplementary function has been unlocked. Lachiel's eyes widened in surprise as he stared at the system panel. Supplementary function 2, display CT scan. You can display the diagnostic results from the acupoint scan on an external screen for the patient to see. However, the external screen must. Suddenly, an image of Arlene's gallbladder appeared, hovering in the air. He spoke, Princess, this is a CT scan image of your gallbladder. Arlene stammered in astonishment. Well, what? Confused, she asked, is this my gallbladder? Lachiel explained, if you're doubtful, press on the right side of your abdomen, just below your ribs. Arlene looked at her hand, then thought, might as well try. She pressed her hand to the right side of her abdomen as instructed, and the image on the system display reacted, rippling with the movement. Arlene stared, hand still pressed to her side, finding it hard to believe. Really? She breathed. Lachiel thought triumphantly. All right, she's starting to believe me. He stepped closer, saying, it must be quite a shock. I understand. Seeing your own internal organs is a jarring experience for anyone. Arlene frowned, hesitantly asking, so, is this why I'm going to die? Lachiel explained, these gallstones will eventually block your bile duct. When that happens, the bile that should flow into your duodenum through the bile duct will back up into your liver. And from the liver, it will spread to your spleen and pancreas, causing severe damage. He stood before Arlene, concluding, therefore, if you don't receive treatment now, you will die. Arlene paused, then said, I don't understand. Even if I am ill, why would the crown prince want to treat me? Lachiel replied simply, for peace. His voice was clear and resonant. I want Princess Arlene healthy so that you can become the queen of the new Ango kingdom. I believe that will bring peace to our royal families and to your kingdom. He extended his hand, his voice firm. That is why I summoned you here. Arlene, surprised, raised her hand in a gesture of apprehension. If I agree to cooperate with the treatment, how do you intend to cure me? He gently grasped her hand, turning his head slightly to look away. It's quite simple, he said. I'll show you right now. Then abruptly he extended his hand and clenched it into a fist. Lachiel suddenly bent down, as if preparing to throw a punch at Princess Arlene of the new Ango kingdom. Arlene, hand on her chest, a look of worry and confusion on her face, asked, if I agree to this treatment, how do you intend to cure me? He immediately replied, Princess Arlene, it's very simple. I'll show you right now. Lachiel's hand suddenly clenched into a fist as he lunged towards Princess Arlene. He crouched low, his fist aimed directly at her. And that's it for today's episode of The Crown Prince that sells medicine. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. The next episode is already up on the channel, so don't wait. Go watch it right now and keep following the journey of Lloyd's descendant. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next part. Same time, same place.